Good morning, everybody. I'm Sarah, the Real Simple Mama. We are out in my front butterfly garden, and I have a really cool little build for you to bring more nature to your property, to just make a really nice ambiance. And this is a product that is brought to me by Poposoap, so thank you so much for letting me use this product. I'm going to teach you how my family has created this build. It is called a dripper, and it is not hooked up to a water source, but it is activated with this solar panel, and it keeps water circulating so that you can have water that is fresh and moving for wild birds and for other animals in your neighborhood. So good morning. Thank you again to Poposoap for sending me this. I've been wanting to improve this outside dripper for a while, and this is going to be a great way for me to do it. So I'm going to show you real quickly the unboxing, the way the products look, and then we're going to go through a couple of short clips to show you how to assemble this. So again, this is by Poposoap. Thank you so much for sending me this product. This is what everything looks like inside. I love the instructions that come with the photos. Everything is really clearly to understand. You're assembling the little components together, and then this is how it will all come together at the end. There's the foam plate here that can sit flat. Here is the pump itself, and then that cable is what hooks up to the solar panel so that it can charge. There's the stand. There are the little foam bits that serve as filters, and then the pieces that you see down here at the bottom, the stake, and then this is the solar panel upside down. And then of course we've got the tubing and the smaller components with the different attachments for the pump itself. Now the point of this is to create something that does not need a water source, as far as it doesn't have to be hooked up to a spigot or to a hose, but you are using a reservoir of water that you fill up once a week, twice a week, but the water is going to constantly be circulating. This is really great because not only will the sound attract animals like wild birds, but it also is going to keep the water moving, so it's less likely to get gross, to get algae on it, things like that. Now those little filters that you see, those are really great for catching the bigger debris, and they're really easy to rinse out. So as long as you keep this clean, this should be able to keep working with you just refilling that big reservoir once or twice a week as needed, but otherwise it will be going as long as the solar panel is getting sun. So the other thing to think about really quickly before we dive in here is thinking about where you want to put this. I would put it within reach of a hose because you're going to have to be filling it up probably once or twice a week, depending on how big of a pot or a bucket you get. Mine is, I would say it's a couple of gallons, and it lasts me at least 4 or 5 days in the heat of the summer, which is really, really great because I want to help the animals, but I also don't have time to run out here and fill it up every single day. The other thing is you need to make sure, I mean, you can put this in the shade under a tree or something like that, but if your solar panel is not in the sun, it's not going to be making your pump move the water. So think of a place where your solar panel is actually going to be catching full sun, and you can change the angle of the solar panel, but it needs to be out in full sun where it's not partially obscured by leaves or branches or anything like that. So have a plan for where you're going to put this, but then once it's assembled, you fill it up, the solar panel catches the sun, and you've got the moving water, which is a beautiful feature, but it's also going to be helping the wildlife in your neighborhood. So I've done a little bit of assembly, but I wanted to show you essentially what we're doing for this dripper setup. Again, that doesn't need a water source because you've created a reservoir. Now, if you want to use this Poposoap kit that comes with all of these things that you need, but you want to do this dripper setup, which is a little bit non-traditional, you're going to have to get a couple of extra things. So I wanted to show you real quick. And again, think about the location of where you're going to put this. The bigger of a pot or bucket, which you could see mine is blue, the bigger one that you get, obviously the more water it will hold, the longer you can go in between having to fill it up. But I'll show you a clip here at the end of it running in full sun. So as you can see, I assembled the solar panel, which is 3 pieces, and then there's a black cable which is going to connect to the actual pump. We've assembled the pump. It is suction cupped down to the bottom of this huge pot. Now what I chose to do to make it a little bit fancier and a little bit nicer is we got a really narrow copper tube right there, sorry for the focus, and we've drilled a little PVC pipe, just that little joint right there, to go from the inside of the pot to the outside. That's going to allow, as the pump gets solar power, right, it's going to push the water up through the tubing, which that was from the Poposoap kit, and then it's going to go up through the copper tube. That way, instead of it just being a pump on the surface where you'd have to cut through, or the water is just sitting open and uncovered with you having just a little foam base for it to run, this way it's going to be covered. So I'll show you what we're going to do. You're going to need, again, this comes with the kit, all that comes with the kit. If you want to do my version, you're also going to buy, like I said, that huge pot. Get as big as you want. We're going to try to keep the debris out of it so it doesn't get clogged up and gross. This is another like pot tray that goes underneath the pot, but notice we put all the holes on it, and then you can have a smaller concrete one. Again, I know this looks a little like overkill, but if you can get it set up, number one, it doesn't have to be hooked up to a water source. Number two, it's going to last for days and days and days, even if you're out here in the full sun in Texas. And it's also going to stay really clean. So what we're going to do is we've set up with a little bit extra, because I wanted to show you what this can be. We cut the tubing from Poposoap into 2 pieces. That way it could go through, but we've also got a valve on it, and this valve that I'll show you, it's here right around the corner. See that silver valve? That valve, as I focus on it, is going to allow you to control the flow. So it doesn't have to be going full blast. You can literally just have it dripping if you want. So what we're going to do is fill this up and then layer those pieces on top. What's going to happen is the water's going to go, like I said, it's filled in here. The pump is down at the bottom with its little sponge filter. The pump is cleaning the water, and with the solar panel power, I'm trying to make sure I say that right, it's going to go up through the tubing, it's going to come out, and it's going to drip here on top of these other surfaces that we've got. So the water is constantly cycling through like this, and any water that doesn't get drunk is going to go through those holes back down, and so it's cycling. And so if you think about it, there is going to be evaporation, like we said, and then of course as little birds come and drink, they have a surface that they can sit on. Nobody can fall in and drown. You're not going to get big pieces of debris like nasty dead leaves and dead bugs and stuff in there because you've got it covered. And then, like I said, whenever this is hitting with sun, which obviously it's not right now, but whenever this is getting full sun, the dripper's going to be running, and in the night it's not going to be running, and so you can see how many days this will last. But it's a beautiful little feature. Once you get it set up, it's like super low maintenance for you. So now I want to take a minute to show you all the different ways that you can use this kit by Poposoap to make different features, to use all of the different accessories and the different options as far as all of the little pieces. So there are a ton of different ways that you can connect all of these pieces. And again, like I warned you, my build is a little bit non-traditional, but I'm going to take a minute to show you a few of the different setups. So the best thing about these instructions is this diagram right here, in my opinion. So you can see here are all the different accessories that you can put together in different configurations. And this depends on, you know, how deep of a pot or a pond you're using. It depends on what type of look you want for your fountain, or how much water pressure, like all of the things. And even though you can tell I'm in the shade right now, you can hear over here on my right that this solar panel is running and it is going full speed. And that's, I think, probably my favorite thing about this kit. Is the solar panel. The solar panel is actually really strong. So I'm going to get a little bit closer here because I want to show you the instructions. And of course, like building the solar panel, that is what it is, right? It's just connecting 3 pieces. And all of the other setup of the pump itself, I've already shown you. In the box here, if I pan up, this is the foam filter. That's the piece that would float on the top. And then your actual little setup for your fountain spray is coming up one end. And then underwater, it's going down through that clear tube into the pump itself. We've got the extra sponge filters. But again, I want to show you this diagram, and the piece that I grabbed is piece A, which that's sort of like the foundation for most of the different configurations you would have. But as you can see, there's a ton of different sprays depending, again, on the look that you want, how deep it is, all of that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is show you a few other options of ways that you could set this up, but then at the end we'll go back to my dripper configuration, which is the purpose of this video, so you can see how I used this kit to make something that was for all of the creatures that are out here in my neighborhood. Ta-da! So here's one of the configurations. As you can see, this doesn't work for what I did, but I wanted to show you because all of these different nozzles, all of these different accessories, there's literally like at least 20 ways that you can configure them together. So the way this is working, and as you can see, I didn't want to do this setup for this dripper because then I can have animals falling in and, you know, things like that. But if you have just a really shallow bird bath, something like this would be fine. So here's what's going on, and I'll pull it out of the water here in a second and make it mad and show you a close-up. So now we have 3 different components going on. The tubing is not being used, so pretend that's not there. But you have the pump that's underneath. Then you have the foam piece that's the floater, and then you have the 4 accessories that I connected together that's now making a higher fountain spray. So as you can see, the water's still circulating through, right? Like it sprays up and then it goes back through the pond pump, sucks it up, and then the process continues. So now what I'm going to do is make it matte, and I'm going to pull it out of the water so you could see the different accessories. Again, this is more traditional of what this Poposoap kit was intended for. And again, you obviously this is a higher spray. It's going well over a foot and a half in the air. If you have a smaller diameter, you may not want this because it's going to spray the water out of your setup. But again, if you're not hooked up to a water source, something like this for me, if I pick a shallower one that's not spraying so high, so I play around with the different nozzles and the different accessories, this could be another option if you don't want the dripper. So let me pull it out of the water. Again, it's going to make it matte, and you don't want to do this for long because you don't want to grind your pump. See how it's trying to suck the water? But there's the pump. Okay, and it's got an auto shut off, which is another great feature because otherwise the motor would burn itself up trying to suck in the water, right? And then you can see there's the sponge in the bottom sticking out of that little pond window. Here's the foam piece, and then I've got piece A is the one with the ridges on it that's coming right out of the foam. And then I have a longer piece, it's an extender, and then I have the cap, and then at the very end, that's the attachment that you just saw. So we're back with one more short clip, and I'm not gonna lie, first of all, it took me like 15 seconds to completely change all of those nozzles and attachments. It's super easy. I'll show you a little hint here in a second, a little hack if you're playing around with which one you want. I really like this nozzle, I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot more solid, it's not making as much noise, and as you can see, the spray on this one is like maybe 2 inches. But again, you've got the water circulating, that's oxygenating if you've got any plants. Obviously, it's making the noise, so all of the creatures nearby, they can hear that there is running water, there's fresh water. I really like this one. I'm just enjoying this. And again, even with the weight of the pond pump, and again, it's gonna have its auto shut off here in a second. It's gonna get mad at me. Okay, it's floating just fine. It's not dragging it under the water with just this one foam piece. Now you see where my thumb is, the piece that's attached to the pond pump. That's gonna be one of the adapters, and the other adapter, if you will, is that piece A. So you need those 2 pieces pretty much no matter what attachment you're gonna do. But then after that, as you can see, I took off the extender so it's not as high out of the water. And then this is what that attachment looks like on the top. So there's a whole bunch of different ways you could play with this. I mean, you could change them every day if you wanted to. Now the pond pump recognizes that it's under the water, so it turns itself back on. As you can see, this solar panel is in shade and it is running 100%, which that's just amazing. I love that. So I trust that this is going to last for a while. Again, it's a good quality pond pump that's here. It's not going to burn the motor if your water level gets too low. I've been testing my pot that I'm using. The blue pot is holding at least 4 gallons of water, and out here in South Central Texas in the summer where we're in the mid 90s, it is lasting, that reservoir of water is lasting at least 5 days, which is fantastic. But I'm still providing this water source, this fresh water, this safe little refuge, right? I'm providing it for all of the local creatures. So now we're going to connect back to my actual dripper setup. But now you see, not only do you have so many options with this kit, but it's like super easy to play around and connect the pieces, especially if you have those 2 adapters set up. But you can play around with the height, with the design you want, and everything else that comes in this kit. So ta-da, here you have it. So right now that valve is fully open, but like I said, I can adjust the flow. Even though it's cloudy, the power on this thing is awesome. The solar panel is getting sun and it's running. So that entire blue bucket, that blue pot has been filled. The pump is down at the bottom. The clear tube is going up and out over this way and then cycling through like that. So it's a little bit of a non-traditional way to use a pond pump. And again, I really appreciate Poposoap giving me this product. I know they were excited to see me use this, and I was excited to get this dripper set up. Literally within 2 minutes of me filling it up and having the solar panel hooked up and everything and getting it started, literally within 2 minutes, I've got a flock of birds who are like coming over closely. Remember, you can adjust the flow with that valve that we added. That's totally optional, but if you feel like this is a little too intense and you want it to be more literally like just dripping, you can certainly do that. But all of the water that is not used goes back through those holes. So it goes through here, through the scalloping. It goes onto that terracotta colored plastic pot tray where it has the holes dripped in it. And so then it'll go right down back into the reservoir. You can see there's no big leaves or bugs or, little baby birds that can get down in there and can drown or can get the water dirty. So this will run, and I'm really, really, really excited. So thank you again. I hope that you guys enjoy this. It's super easy. I'm gonna see, because this thing is gallons of water, I'm gonna see how long it lasts out here in the hot Texas sun. But as you can see, there's not gonna be a lot that evaporates at the same time, and little birds are not gonna be drinking gallons a day. So I'm so excited to have this back in my butterfly garden. Thanks again to Poposoap, and thank you guys for watching.